Okay, in the last lecture, we have discussed up to this example. Okay, so today we move to the next slide. Okay, up to now we have discussed about the. My voice is audible. Please clear this. Am I audible to all? Okay, okay. So in the last lecture, up to last lecture, we have completed the Radix 2 DIT and DFT algorithms. Now we are just I'm giving you the highlights of the other Radix and mixed Radix composite FFT algorithms. Though in your syllabus the title is efficient computation of DFT, means all Radix algorithm you have to study, but at present we restrict our discussion up to algorithm Radix 2 only. Okay, Radix 4 is very much similar to Radix 2. Another one is the mixed Radix. So I just provide you the highlights for that. At present we uh, you can say the continue for the continuity purpose we continue till Radix 2 only. Radix 4 and mixed Radix we will cover later if time allows. Okay, so let me give you the some highlights about the other two algorithms. So other Radix and mixed Radix, or it is known as a composite N FFT algorithm. The higher Radix, okay, let me admit few more students. Okay, the higher Radix like Radix 4 algorithms are also possible when the number of DFT points n is integer power of 4, or we can say our equation is n is equal to 4 raised to v. We can use Radix 4. We can use just a second. We can use Radix 2 algorithm and also Radix 4 algorithm, but in that case Radix 4 algorithm gives efficient computation. Okay, so as one example is given, if I am taking DFT points n, which is an integer power of 4, so n is equal to 4 raised to v. So when n is equal to 4 raised to v, means whatever DFT points that are in the power of 4, so we can apply Radix 2 as well as Radix 4 algorithm in this case. But compared to Radix 2, Radix 4 algorithm provides efficient computation. The principle of derivation of Radix 4 algorithm is similar to Radix 2 algorithm. The only thing is it requires the equation v is equal to log 4n. Earlier it was v is equal to log 2n because we are using Radix 2 or base 2 algorithm. Now we are using Radix 4, so the base of that will change to 4. So v is equal to log 4n. Stage is to implement Radix 4 algorithm. Okay, it is not always possible to work with sequences with length of integer power of 2 or 4. So it may happen that sometimes whatever sequences we are taken, they are not in the length of integer power of 2 or 4. So in that case the decomposition process in FFT can also be applied to any non-prime, or you can say the composite number n. If number is non-prime and composite one which is not in the integer power of 2 or 4, what happen here, the length is decomposed into n is equal to n1 and n2. So instead of taking single endpoint, we are dividing that n or decomposing that n into two parts, that is n is equal to n1 into n2. In some cases the composite or mixed, or another word we are using, that is split Radix FFT, gives higher computational efficiency. Okay, so we can say that when we apply the mixed Radix or higher Radix algorithm, they will provide the higher computational complexity. Okay, or not complexity but efficiency. But often the higher Radix, just a second. Okay, so when we are using the mixed Radix or higher Radix, am I audible to all? I'm getting some noise over there, so please confirm that. Am I audible to all? Okay, okay. So in some cases the composite or mixed or split Radix FFT gives higher computational efficiency. So when we are using the higher Radix algorithm, they will improve the efficiency, means less number of complex multiplication and additions are required. But often the one limitation is, but often the higher radix and mixed radix algorithm are more complicated to implement on DSP processor. So when we have to implement this algorithm on the hardware or on the DSP processor, these higher radix or mixed radix algorithms are complicated compared to radix 2 algorithm. Therefore, the radix 2 FFT is the most commonly used FFT algorithm. Okay, so why the radix 2 algorithm is most commonly used FFT algorithm? Because as we have discussed, higher radix or mixed radix or split radix algorithm provide you the higher computational efficiency, but their limitation is it is hard, or you can say they are complicated to implement on the DSP processor. So their implementation on the hardware is not as easy as radix 2 FFT algorithm. So due to that complexity, or you can say complications, always radix 2 FFT is preferred compared to other FFT algorithms. Okay, so now basically the radix 2 FFT algorithm consists of taking two data points at a time, as we have seen in the butterfly diagram. Here we are taking the two data points at a time. For example, I call this as a small a and small b. Okay, then what we are doing, we are doing this butterfly operation, or we are applying this butterfly algorithm like this. And here we are multiplying it with -1. And whatever answer you are getting, here you are getting this answer directly. That is, you can say a plus b, addition of both, which we call as a capital A. And at this location, what happened? You apply this a minus b, a minus b, and it is also multiplied with the twiddle factor omega n raised to k. And this particular thing is called as a b point. So basically the radix 2 FFT algorithm consists of taking two data points. It takes the two data points, here for example a and b, at a time from memory, performing the butterfly computation. Here we are performing the butterfly computation and returning the resulting numbers to memory. The here resulting numbers are capital A and capital B. These are the outputs of this butterfly diagram. So this procedure is repeated many times. Many times means n log 2n divided by 2 times in the computation of endpoint DFT. If I have to perform the endpoint DFT, I have to repeat this calculation in approximately, not approximately, but exactly n log 2n divided by 2 times. So the butterfly computation require the twiddle factors omega n raised to k at various stages in either natural or bit reverse order. So in the butterfly computation, another requirement is we have to calculate this twiddle factor. Along with this calculation, we have to calculate this twiddle factor for every value of n and k. So at the various stages in the natural order or in the bit reverse order. So in an efficient implementation of the algorithm, the phase factors are computed once and stored in a table. These phase factors are nothing but these are the twiddle factors. Both are same. You can see this twiddle factor and phase factor. Both are same. Sometimes we call this as a phase factor. So computed once and stored in a table. So whatever twiddle factor requirements are there, we compute all the twiddle factors together and stored in a table, either in a normal order or in a bit reverse order, depending on the specific implementation of the algorithm. Based on our requirement of the algorithm, we store them either in a normal order or in a bit reverse order, depending on our specific implementation of the algorithm. So here the thing we discuss is implementation of the FFT algorithm. So here simply we discuss about, we are taking two data points a and b, we obtain the output capital A and capital B. These capital A and B are stored in a particular place, and another is we have to calculate this twiddle factors. So whatever calculation of this twiddle factor and algorithm we are doing, we are storing all the twiddle factor in one table. The order of their storage is either normal order or bit reverse order. Okay, okay, just a second. Okay, all of you, let us continue with this. Okay, now we are talking about the, I think we have completed this slide. Now memory requirement. If the competitions are performed in place, okay. So when we are doing the in place competitions, what happen? The number of memory location requires is twice n, since the numbers are complex. As we are talking about the simple competition, or you can say in place competition. In place competition means when we are doing the butterfly operation, what happen from small a and small b. Let me draw this diagram again. From this I'm just drawing this diagram roughly, no need to draw this, just for your understanding purpose. At the input I am taking small a and b as a data points, and at the output we are getting capital A and capital B. So to make the calculation in place means to reduce the storage requirement, what we are doing, whatever this capital A and capital B we are getting as a output of this butterfly operation, what we are doing, we are replacing this inputs with these outputs. Means whatever storage location assigned to this small a and b are replaced, are now assigned to capital A and capital B. So what happened, your storage requirement is reduced. So we can instead double the memory to 4n, thus simplifying the indexing and control operation in the FFT operation. So simply, if I'm not following this type of in place calculation, what happened, my storage requirement is double. Initially I have to store this input, whatever output I am getting I have to store this output again. So compared to twice n, now your requirement is double, so it is 4n, thus simplifying the indexing and control operation. So in this case we simply alternate in the use of the two sets of memory location from one stage of the FFT algorithm to the other. Now doubling of the memory also allows us to have both the input sequence and the output sequence in a normal order. Okay, so when we are following this butterfly operation, what happen, and when we are using this in place computation, what happen, either our input sequence is in the bit reverse order or our output sequence in bit reverse order. Okay, so we need to arrange the order to make it correct or in the normal order. But if I am doing this memory size double, what happen, we can store them separately. Okay, so what happen, whatever output I am getting over here, it is no need to replace this output with the input or assign the input storage location to the output. So what happen in this case, when we double the memory, what happen, the one another advantage we are getting is both the input sequence and the output sequence will be available in the normal order. Okay, now implementation of FFT algorithm. So one point is inverse DFT can be obtained using FFT algorithm with some modification. Okay, in the last practical, many of the students asked me about, sir, we are not able to perform the IDFT. Okay, only with little modification we are able to implement the FFT algorithm. Same FFT algorithm which we are usually utilize for DFT can be applicable for the inverse DFT. Okay, so what are the modification we will discuss after this slide. When the number of data point is not in the power of 2 or 4, what we have to do, it is simple matter to pad the sequence x of n with zeros such that n is equal to 2 raised to v or n is equal to 4 raised to v. So when your sequence is not in the integer multiple of 2 or 4, what happen, for the radix 2 we are padding the 0 to make the sequence n is equal to 2 raised to v, and for radix 4 we have to add the number of zeros to make the equation n is equal to 4 raised to v. So the measure of complexity for FFT algorithm that we have emphasized is the required number of arithmetic operation, multiplication and addition. So when we talk about the complexity for implementation of FFT algorithm, that means we are calculating the number of complex multiplications and complex additions required in that case. So in practical implementation, these all are the whatever we have discussed are the theoretical aspects. Okay, now practically when we go for the FFT implementation, what are the issues or we have to consider? These issues are, first is the architecture of the processor is important. Okay, means for our calculation which processor architecture is suitable, so that is the first point, first issue we have to solve, the architecture of the processor. Second is the available instruction set, whatever our inputs and output or whatever our arrangement, how we have to apply that arrangement on the hardware. Okay, using the instruction set, so we have to check what is the available instruction set for that particular processor. And last one is data structure for storing twiddle factor and other construction. Another is the data structures for storing the twiddle factor. As we have discussed in few algorithms, we can store twiddle factor in a normal order. and another we can order, we can store them in a bit reverse order. So the data structure for storing the twiddle factor and other considerations are there. So these all are, you can say, the practical consideration we have to keep in mind when we go for the implementation of FFT algorithms. Okay, now all of you clear up to this? This is nothing but we have discussed about the implementation of FFT algorithm. First we started with the how many calculations we require, what are the other algorithms available, then implementation, total number of calculations, what is bit reverse order, then number of calculations, number of what is the storage memory size, then at the last we have discussed about the practical implementation related issues. Anybody having any query up to this? All of you got up to this? Last point in practical implementation, the data structure for storing twiddle factor. Okay, so the data structure for storing twiddle factor and other considerations means when we have to store the twiddle factor, we are using some kind of data structure depending on our requirement of storage of twiddle factor. Either we want to store a twiddle factors in a normal order, or we have to store the twiddle factor in a bit reverse order. Based on that, we select the data structure. So either we have to go for the normal data structure or we go for the bit reverse data structure. Just sir in place means giving FFT input without bit reverse. Just a second, I'm not getting. Sir in place means giving FFT input without bit reverse. No, in place means what happen? Simple meaning of in place calculation or computations are when we apply the butterfly computation, just like this. Our input points are small a and small b. After applying the butterfly computation, what I am getting? Capital A as a output and capital B as a output. So when I utilize this small a and small b, means input data points, I obtain the output data points A and B. Now what happened for the next stage is I don't require this small a and small b. So instead of storing this small a and b on their original places, what happened? We assign these storage places to capital A and capital B, means to the output. So we store the output at the place of input. So now what happened? These storage locations are now replaced with the storage of capital A and capital B. So what happened? It is known as a in place computation. It is not means giving FFT input without bit reversal. It is not related with bit reverse. When we apply this in place computation, what happened? Always you are getting the bit reversal. This is the another issue, because it reduced the memory requirement. And what happened? And due to this cross pattern, what happened? Your locations are always in the bit reverse. Okay, yes, we hope you got the answer. Okay. Okay, now we go for the inverse DFT using FFT algorithm. So I'm writing the equation of IDFT. For the calculation of IDFT, the equation is small x of n is equal to 1 by n sigma k is equal to 0 to n minus 1 x of k into omega n raised to minus nk. Okay, so here as you can notice, compared to previous equation, what are the changes? First change is we are applying this normalization factor or scaling factor 1 by n. Another is, in previous case your twiddle factor was omega n raised to nk or kn, but here your twiddle factor having the minus sign. These are the only two changes we have to apply in the FFT algorithm to make that algorithm work for the inverse DFT. So that is mentioned. The only difference between the two transform is the normalization factor 1 by n and the sign of the phase factor or sign of the twiddle factor omega n. So consequently, an FFT algorithm for computing the DFT can be converted to an FFT algorithm for computing the IDFT by changing the sign of all phase factor, means whatever twiddle factor we are getting, we have to change the sign of that twiddle factors and dividing the final output of the algorithm by n, by the normalization factor 1 by n. Okay, so these are the only two changes you have to make in your algorithm. So same algorithm you can utilize for the inverse DFT calculation. Okay, let me show you this. In fact, if we take the decimation, for example, I am taking the decimation in time algorithm or DIT FFT algorithm. So what changes I am doing? The first change is I am reversing the direction of the flow graph. So whatever directions of the flow graphs are given, change these directions. Second is change the sign on the phase factor. Whatever phase factor or twiddle factors are there, you have to change their sign, means positive to negative and negative to positive. And last one is interchange the output and input positions. As we are changing the direction of flow graph, what we have to do, another thing, that is we have to interchange the output and input locations. Okay, so and finally divide the output by n, or you can say apply the normalization factor. So after doing all this, what we get, we obtain a decimation in frequency FFT algorithm for computing the IDFT. So when you apply these changes, what happen? This DIT FFT algorithm will be converted into DIF FFT algorithm for computation of the IDFT. Okay. Similarly, on the other hand, if we begin with the decimation in frequency FFT algorithm, so now instead of DIT FFT algorithm, if I started with decimation in frequency FFT algorithm and repeat the changes prescribed above, means whatever changes we have done in the previous algorithm, same changes we have to apply over here. The changes are reverse the direction of the flow graph, change the sign on the phase factors or twiddle factors, interchange the output and input, and finally divide the output by n. So when you apply all these changes, what happened? That particular algorithm is now changed into the decimation in time FFT algorithm for computing the IDFT. So when you apply these changes as per the equation, what happened? The DIF algorithm is now converted into DIT FFT algorithm for computing the IDFT. So this it is a simple matter to devise FFT algorithm for computing the IDFT. Okay, all of you clear about this? How we can utilize the FFT algorithm for the computation of DFT? Yes, all of you? All of you clear up to this? Yashvi, can you please give example? In the next lecture, we will solve some example related to this calculation of FFT and calculation of calculation of DFT and IDFT using this algorithm. So I will cover this with example in the next lecture. Okay, so let us continue with this. Now applications of FFT algorithm. Okay, so the applications are efficient computation of the DFT of two real sequences. First application is efficient computation of the DFT of the two real sequences. So the FFT algorithm is designed to perform complex multiplications and additions, even though the input data may be real valued. So this is the one thing. In the FFT algorithm, the design itself is like this. We have to perform the complex multiplications and complex addition. So what happen when you apply the input data, either it may be real or complex. What happen? Always your output is in the complex form. So the basic reason for this situation is that the phase factors are complex. Whatever phase factors or twiddle factor we assign, these are omega n raised to k, and these factors are nothing but, we can write this twiddle factor as e raised to minus j 2 pi k by n. This is how we are representing this twiddle factor, and this equation is nothing but the complex equation. So the basic reason for this situation is the phase factors are complex, and hence after the first stage of the algorithm, all variables are basically complex valued. So when you implement this algorithm, so after the implementation of the first stage, what happened? Whatever output you are getting, whatever variables you are getting, they all become the complex valued because they are multiplied with the twiddle factor, which itself are in a complex. So in view of the fact that the algorithm can handle complex valued input sequences, so we can say that the algorithm can handle complex valued input sequences. We can exploit this capability in the computation of the DFT of two real valued sequences. So we can say that this algorithm is used for the or handle the complex valued input sequences, and we can use the same algorithm for the implementation of two real valued sequences. So let me show you this. Suppose x1n and x2n are two real valued sequences. Suppose I am taking the two input sequences x1n, x2n. These both are real valued sequences of length n, and let x of n be a complex valued sequence. Now I am making one sequence x of n by clubbing both. So that is x of n is nothing but x1n plus x2n. But this x of n is a complex valued sequence, so x of n is as it is, but this x2n is multiplied with the imaginary term. Okay, so whatever sequences we have utilized, that is x1n, that is real valued sequence, x2n, that is again a real valued sequence. We club these sequences to get the one complex valued sequence, that is x of n is equal to x1n plus j x2n, where a value of n is from 0 to n minus 1. So now we have to calculate the DFT for this. So when you calculate the DFT operation for this, so x of k will be converted x of n is converted to x of k, x1n is, after doing DFT, will be x1k, and x2n will become x2k. So this is the equation we are getting after applying the DFT. X of k is equal to x1k plus j x2k. So the sequences x1n and x2n can be expressed in the terms of x of n. Now if we try to represent this x1n sequence and x2n sequence in the form of x of n, how we can represent this? X1n is nothing but x of n plus complex term of x of n divided by 2. X2n is nothing but imaginary part, so x of n minus complex term of x of n divided by 2j. This is how we can represent this x of x1n and x2n in the form of xn. First one is x of n plus complex term of x of n divided by 2. Second is x of n minus complex term of x of n divided by 2j. Okay, so hence if we calculate the DFT for this, for example, this, now we separated or represent the x1n and x2n in the form of x of n, and now we apply the DFT. What happened? So the DFT for x1n and x2n are given as x1k is equal to, first part is x of n, so we have to calculate the DFT for that. So 1 by 2, as here the denominator is 2, I am writing here 1 by 2 outside this bracket. So DFT of x of n plus DFT of complex x of n. Similarly, x2k is nothing but 1 upon 2j, as the denominator is 2j because this is the imaginary term, so here we are taking 2j in the denominator. So x2k is equal to 1 by 2j DFT of x of n minus DFT of x of complex value of x of n. So similarly we can say that DFT of complex value of x of n will be x complex value n minus k. So the DFT of x of n will be given as complex value of x n minus k. So we are replacing this term with this one. So now I am writing x1k is nothing but, so first is DFT of x of k, x of n, that is nothing but x of k, DFT of complex term of x of n, which is given as x complex n minus k. For the second term, x2k is equal to 1 upon j2 or 2j, x of k minus x of complex term n minus k. So here we can say that thus by performing a single DFT on the complex valued sequence x of n, we have obtained the DFT of the two real sequences with only small amount of additional computation that is involved in computing x1k and x2k from x of k. So here we can say that main thing is what we have done. Here we have taken two real valued sequence x1k and x2k. Okay, we are interested to calculate their DFT only. Okay, but what we have done, we add them and make one sequence x of n and converted this x1n and x2n in the form of x1 or sorry xn and complex value of xn. And finally what happened, how we obtain the DFT? We obtain the DFT for first sequence x1k by applying this equation, and similarly we calculate the DFT for second sequence by applying this equation. So you can say that we can calculate the DFT of two real sequences x1n and x2n with the same calculation but with little modification or small amount of additional computation, we are obtain their separate DFTs x1k and x2k by calculating the DFT of x of k only. First we have to calculate the x of k and then same x of k, but we are getting the complex value of x of n minus k. So this is how we are utilizing the DFT algorithm for the computation of two real valued sequences. Okay, all of you clear up to this? Okay, let me take the next point. Efficient computation of the DFT of a 2n point real sequence. Up to now, we are talking about the n point sequence. Now, what happened if your sequence we are doing to save? We are doing to just Jinendra, what you written? We are doing this to save computations. Yeah, we are not at present. We are not interested to save any competition, but what we are discussing that efficient computation of the DFT of two real sequences instead of complex sequence. If real sequences are given, how you can apply the algorithm and find out the DFT of real sequences. Okay, at present we are not talking about the saving computation or not. We are only interested to say that whatever complex valued equation, that same equation can be applied for the computation of two real sequences. Can you explain the part, which part you are taking? X of, yeah, this is nothing but this is a general DFT equation. When you calculate the DFT of x of n, this is a general equation. When you take the x of n or find out the DFT, this is not the x of n is equal to this. This is a DFT. Just a second, let me erase all the ink. Here I have written DFT of x of n. It is not x of n will be this. When you find out the DFT of complex value of x of n, what happen? It will give you the DFT of x of n minus k. This n is now replaced with the n minus k notation, and this x is nothing but now as you are doing the DFT, it is represented with x. So this is a general equation of DFT. When you have to calculate the complex value DFT of x of n, the answer will be x of complex value n minus k. Clear, Ajitha? Okay. Now earlier we have discussed about the, okay, wait, let me check the timings. Okay, we stop here up to this. From next in the next lecture we try we continue with the slides. Okay, let me take the attendance first.